Hey guys, Mike here. So today I'm here to talk to you about Glass. In this review I'll be going over a brief summary of the plot, my quick thoughts about the film and whether or not you guys should go and see it. So I'm going to do my best to try and keep this review as vague and as spoiler free as possible. However, if you don't want to know anything about the film and you want to go completely blind, then let's just come back to this video once you've seen the film. So with that, let's get started, shall we?
What do we call you, sir?
First name, Mr. Last name, Glass.
So Glass sees Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson reprising their roles from Unbreakable as David Dunn and Elijah Price. The movie also sees James McAvoy reprising his role from Split as The Horde. In Glass, it's been nearly 20 years since the events of Unbreakable, and David Dunn is still trying to save the innocent from the wicked and still doing his whole superhero thing. As well as that, David has been looking for the Horde ever since he first heard about it, and one day, after a little investigating, he happens to stumble upon the Horde. David finds the Horde's hideout and saves the 4 girls that the Horde has imprisoned there. After a little bit of a scrap, the both of them are incarcerated and sent to a mental institution. And so we have Glass. So first of all, it goes without saying that the show stealer in this movie is obviously James McAvoy. The guy was incredible in Split, and he carries on the trend in this movie. Each one of his personalities feels uniquely different from one another, and it's just incredible how he can just switch between each one just at a moment's notice. Now as well, Bruce Willis as David Dunn. It's been a while since Bruce Willis looked like he actually cared about a movie, because in recent years it looks like he's just been showing up, getting his check and going home. But in this movie it looks like he really had respect for his former character and he wanted to do the best performance that he possibly could. I'm not saying that Bruce Willis shows amazing acting chops in this movie because his character isn't really anything eccentric. You know, he's just an average, everyday guy who happens to have superpowers. But like I say, he plays it just like he actually really cares about this performance, which is just so refreshing to see out of Bruce Willis. And lastly, we have Samuel Jackson's character, Elijah Price. Now, for the first couple of minutes, I really thought they were going to massively underuse Samuel Jackson in this movie. Though in the back of my head, I was just telling myself, you know, just wait. He will do something and it will be great. And I was not wrong. However, once Elijah Price actually springs into action, the geezer is just incredible. The guy's cold, calculating, intelligent, and he has just such an incredible presence on screen. And you can really see how he's just manipulating all these characters to do whatever he wants, and how he's just 5 steps ahead of everyone. So as a whole, the leading cast were incredible and they all played really well off each other. I mean, as well, the supporting cast of this movie were great as well. You got characters returning from Unbreakable, from Split, and new characters that are appearing in this movie. And it was just good to see these existing characters make a reappearance. Because, you know, they could have probably actually said, you know, we don't actually need you for this movie, thanks for your work, goodbye. But no, they made them an integral part of the movie and it really helped to push the story forward as well. But I'd say if you're going into this movie for, you know, a big superhero slugfest, I think you'll be a little disappointed. Because at first, I did think the fight choreography was a little lame and it was a bit poorly shot. But you know what, after thinking about it, it did seem a lot more realistic than most superhero fights. I mean, it's as realistic as it can possibly be within this story setting. But I'd say the main problem with the fight choreography comes with its presentation. Because, I mean, for the most part, they do have the camera pulled really far back, they have it really up close to some characters, and it does make it quite jarring and it makes it quite hard to see what's happening. But I wouldn't say that this ruined the fight scenes, I'd just say that it would have been better had it been presented a little differently. That's all I'm saying. But like Unbreakable and like Split, this is more of a character study than anything else. Sure, it does have some action in it, but it's more about seeing how these characters develop and just getting into their mental space. And it was just amazing to see how the psychiatrist was really trying to convince these guys that they weren't anything special and every amazing feat they did could be easily explained. And as an audience member, you start to believe it yourself as well. And there does come a certain point where these characters are doing these incredible feats, and you're just thinking, how are you going to possibly explain them doing this? And without spoiling it, they do give an acceptable answer. But if you've seen an M. Night Shyamalan movie, you know that there's going to be a twist in there somewhere. And for the most part, in his movies, when he does a plot twist, it is really good. And this movie, I'd have to say, is no exception. And as well, I really didn't see this twist coming. And without spoiling what exactly it is, I just think it's a brilliant way of paying homage to both Unbreakable and Split. I mean, that's the best description I can give of it without actually giving it away. But ultimately, I wouldn't say that this movie is perfect. I mean, like I've said, the fight choreography wasn't all that impressive. But I think another issue comes with the dialogue. I wouldn't say that it's particularly bad dialogue, but it really does feel like it's written by someone who doesn't speak English as a first language. Which, I'm not really sure if M. Night Shyamalan does speak English as a first language, but there are certain points in the movie, like I found with Unbreakable as well, where it just doesn't sound like something a person would say. This isn't really consistent throughout the entire movie. There's just these little points where you're just kind of sitting there thinking, a real person wouldn't necessarily say that. I'd say my probably biggest issue with this movie comes with just how it kind of ends. It's not a terrible ending. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, like I say, but it does feel that M. Night is just trying to be a bit too ambitious with his ending. And I think that's when M. Night Shyamalan suffers the most, because when he does these smaller movies where it's more focused on a central character more than anything else, he does really well. But when he tries to make it a bit too grand and a bit too much of a spectacle, that's when it starts to fall apart a bit. And I did actually have this concern before going to see the movie, but I do have to say that it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it possibly could have been. So, you know, I will give him that. But the bottom line is, I can honestly say how audiences can be split with this movie and think that it's a glass half full. Oh God, I can't believe I said those puns. And when it comes down to it, I could just talk about this movie for hours because I can really see both sides of the argument, even though that I actually really like this movie. Overall, guys, the leading characters were great in this movie, with the exceptional performance being by James McAvoy. The supporting cast were really good as well, and the story as a whole was really entertaining and quite intriguing for the most parts. And though the movie isn't exactly perfect and does have some notable flaws, I still really enjoyed this movie. But now, as for whether or not you guys should go and see it, for me to recommend this movie, I really have to ask this question. Are you going for a Unbreakable sequel, a Split sequel, or are you just going to go see a movie? Because I only watched Unbreakable for the first time last week, just to get ready for this movie, so I don't really have some nostalgic feeling about this movie, or I haven't been waiting nearly 20 years for this movie. So I can't really speak to it on that front. However, I really enjoyed Split, and I was absolutely looking forward to a sequel to that movie. And if I was to see this movie by itself, I don't think you'd be 100% lost. I mean, it definitely helps seeing these two movies beforehand. But, like I say, I think you could actually probably go into this movie without seeing either one. Though I would definitely advise watching the other two movies before going to see this one. So ultimately, I think my answer is yes, go see this movie. I think you'll have a good time with it. Okay, guys, that's my review of Glass. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And what's your favourite M. Night Shyamalan movie? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!